Roses are one of the most profitable crops we grow. Here on less than half an acre, we're bringing in upwards of $50,000 a year. We started this patch 8 years ago, and at that point the cost of installation came out to around $8,000. And that covered the cost of all the plants, landscape fabric that we planted them into, and the labor costs of getting them all in the ground and taken care of. It also covered the fertilization and the irrigation infrastructure. So that initial investment we made back on our first year of roses. So I recommend getting your roses bare root. This means in the winter when they're dormant, you can get them lifted right out of the soil, roots exposed, their feeding roots are still tucked away inside, and this will reduce cost. You can get a bare root rose for about $12, whereas in a potted tops and pots, as they call them, they run you upwards of $16 to $25. So cost of consideration, also just ease of transport. You can bundle up all your roses in, secure the bottoms in trash bags, throw in the back of your truck, drive them back from the nursery, heel them in or plant them right away, whereas you'll probably need a box truck or to rent a U-Haul or something to move all of those pots. So we brought ours in bare root, we planted them in the winter, we fertilized them right away, and didn't really prune them. Just let them be, let them photosynthesize, let them grow, let them establish. They all started to try to bloom in spring. We resisted the urge to harvest them and deadheaded them all, which felt crazy. But then in the fall, they came back and they bloomed again. And that's when we made back our initial investment. So the repeat blooming is something to make sure to pay attention to. We have planted mostly David Austins because they have the romance and behavior or characteristics of an old-fashioned rose, but are repeat bloomers like modern roses. So that's 2 harvests a year, a big one in the fall. They usually come on strong in May and start to kind of trail off into June and July. And then they have another big swell in September and October. So this also nicely times with our big event seasons. A lot of weddings in the spring, a lot of weddings in the fall. They kind of drop off in the summer. So they're really well timed with that sort of sales outlet. We do still have roses in the middle of the summer, and that is more often when we have roses that we can't sell. In July is hard for flowers. People go on vacation, so there's not as much shopping at the farmer's market, and events drop off because in our climate, we have very hot summers. People shy away from having events that time of year. So at that point, we harvest them and we hang them from the rafters in the barn to dry. Dried roses we're able to sell into the winter, and so we really never have to compost any roses. Pretty awesome. So I'm making it sound like roses are just the most perfect thing to grow and there's no problems with them whatsoever. False. Roses have some pretty serious requirements. For one thing, the growing of the roses themselves, they're very climate specific, and so they do well in our climate because we have a lot of sunshine. Starting in April all the way through November, it's mostly dry and sunny, and the roses just drink that up. It's the warm summer days and all of the breezy warmth that we have all summer staves away the disease that otherwise would attack the roses. And so we have to do very minimal inputs to combat disease. That said, we still do multiple sprays, dormant sprays and in the growing season, both preventative for fungal diseases and also to try to combat pests. Our major pests here in this climate for the roses are thrips, first and foremost. In fact, we have taken out an entire bed of white roses because the thrips just devour them every year and brown the petals and we can't sell them. So thrips are our main problem, and then we also have a host of other critters that I won't exhaustively name for you. But pests and diseases, they like roses. Other considerations are you need refrigeration for sure. If you're a farm that's getting by without a walk-in cooler, roses are probably not going to be your crop. If you have the sunshine that roses require, it means you also have the heat that's going to make them blow open, and you need to be able to deliver your rose in a perfect, sellable, still opening state. So harvesting them in the cool of the day, getting them right into the cooler is going to be what you need to do. They're also very labor intensive. So here in this, again, we have less than a half acre of roses. Pretty small patch, 750 plants. Huge and small, depending on how you look at it. This requires about 5 people working in the roses 3 days a week for a few hours in the morning. We cut them all, we get them in the cooler, and then later in the day after we've done the rest of our harvest, we need to pull them all right back out and strip the roses, strip the thorns, bunch them, pack them, clean up, any kind of damage, and that's how we send them back out. Roses also need and love water. Most established perennials, we can get by irrigating them once every week and a half. The roses during the growing season require water, a solid watering once every week. Sometimes during hot spells, we water them twice a week. Before we harvest them, we want the stems to be turgid and full of water to have the longest vase life. And so you're going to have solid irrigation. We use landscape fabric, and on top of that we put chips, and that's a way to maintain moist soil, water retention. That reduces our need to irrigate all the time, but all the same, they're one of our thirstiest crops. And here at the farm, it was very unclear whether we were going to be able to keep irrigating through this last drought. We ended up getting curtailed, and we had water shipped in order to keep the roses alive. The other perennials we let go, and they limped along. The roses we would have completely lost. One other challenge with roses, and it seems to be increasingly as this climate continues to change, is they don't take kindly to a hard spring frost. And we are pretty much every spring getting a killing frost in April. And so the buds have already expressed, they've got these tender little shoots, then we have a killing frost come through and just wipe them out. So we've been trying to establish some new roses in the last couple of years, and just having the hardest time every winter getting them in the ground, and then every spring about half of them get knocked back. So conversely, in the summer when we have these big swings in temperature and have highs upwards in the low hundreds, also we knock off a number of tender young shoots. So we have a good climate for roses. We don't have a great climate for roses. It would be really nice if we had a little more cloud cover and a little gentler of winters. So where that is, maybe Santa Cruz, California. But then of course you have tons of fungal diseases. So roses, they're irresistible. They'll also break your heart. And we still love them and grow more and more every year. I think we're maxing out. 750, sweet spot.